Hello YouTube, it is your boy B3 back with another kicking graphic novel review. Today we're doing a trade paperback, and I decided to do some Ultraman. Oop, I'm trying to sit down, but I'm having a hard time. Okay, yeah, so I read two Ultraman books recently. Ultraman Volume 14 from the manga, and Ultraman Volume 1 from the American series. Yeah, there is an American Ultraman title now, which is pretty cool. And that's what we're reviewing today, Marvel's Ultraman. It's actually Ultraman Volume 1, The Rise of Ultraman, technically. And it was a pretty fun book. I'm going to read you the back real quick. In the darkness, there lurk kaiju, terrifying and unfathomable monsters. Between them and the rest of us stands the United Science Patrol. But what are these enigmatic defenders? And how did they perform their miracles? Shin Hayata and Kiki Fuji have spent half a lifetime trying to find out. And now their quest drives them towards a decades-old dark secret and a collision course with a mysterious warrior from beyond the stars. Kyle Higgins from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Great choice of writer for this book. Like, the perfect choice. Matt Groom from Self-Made and Francesco Manna from Avengers reimagine the classic origin of Subaraya Productions' pop culture icon, the histories of two worlds, the experiences of two lives, the destinies of two heroes must reconcile as Ultra and Man struggle to become one. And if they don't, neither will survive. Collecting The Rise of Ultraman, number 1 through number 5 by Kyle Higgins, Matt Groom, Francisco Manna, and Espen Grounderjern. I might have pronounced that wrong. I probably did. Sue me. But yeah, so it starts out with Dan Morboshi, you know, the guy who was the host for Ultra 7, getting killed in a collision with one of the Ultra spheres that they can travel through space in. Odd that it happened to him first, but it did. And then we find out that Hayata and Yuki were two people who had a kaiju encounter as children. They were saved by the Science Patrol, who is a secret organization in this world. They both tracked them down, did the entrance exams. Hayata did not make it in. Fuji did. And we find out later, there's going to be spoilers for the whole book throughout this, by the way. We find out later that she was more likely accepted because she's more willing to work in secret, and Hayata is not. Pretty fun stuff. They fight a Tulsadon. They don't give the names of any of these kaiju except one at the very end. And all these kaiju are more like, you know, closer to human size kaiju. They're not, technically, kaiju could be any size. Dai kaiju has to be giant. We're all using the term kaiju incorrectly, technically, but also technically using it correctly. So Hayata shoots Ultraman and kills him. That's kind of what happens. Shoots him, it wounds him, and then Ultraman's energy wounds Hayata, and they have to fuse together to survive. But the fusion didn't work right because they were both injured, so when they trade places and Ultraman comes to the surface, they can only fight for 3 minutes. Of course, you all know about the time limit, I'm sure. Most of you probably know about Ultraman. Most of my subscribers are probably familiar with Ultraman. I've done a lot of Ultraman videos on this channel. But he fuses with Ultraman, and then he finds out that the Science Patrol has been hiding all these secrets. The weapons that they use to disintegrate kaiju aren't disintegrating kaiju, they're just sending them to another dimension. And when that dimension gets full, it'll burst like a bubble, and there will be a flood of kaiju onto the planet. They fight not one, but two, like, maybe more like some big Naranga. Like Asian elephant Naranga. Asian elephant sized, I know. Hayata transforms into a human-sized Ultraman. They fight. Fun stuff. Fuji gets trapped in the other dimension, which is a kind of cool dimension with like all kinds of warped stuff and crystals, and we see a Gomora in there. Lots of familiar kaiju. And it turns out when the kaiju get trapped in there, they are like growing bigger, like Tadai kaiju size, giant city destroying size, and when they escape, a kaiju escapes alongside them. Bimular, the first monster that Ultraman ever fought in the show. Of course. Of course they use Bimular. As they should, you know? So here's Giant, fights Bimular, and the Science Patrol was secret until this. Couldn't really keep Ultraman and Bimular under wraps. And there's also this, like, scientist that used to work for the Science Patrol who's running around, and he's basically a terrorist. Because he hates the Science Patrol so much and all this stuff. Pretty crazy book. And then it ends on this cliffhanger where we see Dan Moriboshi show up, and everyone thought he was dead. You see, the reason they fired upon Ultraman when they saw him was because the last time a member of his species came to Earth, Dan Moriboshi was killed. But it was just an accident. If you've seen the show, you know it's an accidental crash, and that's why that happened. But here he is. So Ultra 7 is more than likely in the next volume. The single issue, at the time of recording this, I believe all the single issues for the sequel story are already out, but I'm waiting for the trade, to be honest. And I gotta say, it was a fun book. It also has a bunch of mini comics in it, like little comics of Pigmon, like helping out a new Science Patrol recruit. And before it was called the Science Patrol, it was called Ultra Q, of course. You know, many of you might get that reference. That was the first show in the Ultra series. It's basically Ultraman, but without Ultraman in it, pretty much. And the Ultra Q people fuse with another organization to make the Science Patrol, but it also reveals that there's some alien stuff going on that has to be stopped. I think this will end up being pretty cool. We also get some cool, like, covers. You know, Marvel has those action figure variant covers and those baby covers. We got a few of those. We got a cover with Spider-Man and Ultraman together. Just some dope covers that I really enjoyed. And in the trade, there's also a read-up about Subaraya, which is pretty cool. May he rest in peace. But yeah, that is it for Ultraman Volume 1, The Rise of Ultraman. I thought it was a really fun book. It's a great start. I like this new take on, you know, the Ultraman legend of sorts. It's very, very fun. I think all Ultraman fans will enjoy it. It's a book that, you know, I feel like all ages can read this book. It's a little violent, but the Ultraman show's kind of violent too. And it's for kids. I think your kids could read this. You know, your older ones, of course, because you need to be able to read, obviously, and comprehend the story. I think if you're old enough to comprehend the story and read it, then you can read it. It's you see, they did the same thing with this that Boom did with Power Rangers. In fact, I think Boom Studios' Power Rangers directly influenced the creation of this book. I am 100% positive of that, especially since Kyle Higgins is on this book. Because the Boom Mighty Morphin Power Rangers book was like kind of a reimagining with the same concept as the show, and this does have the same concept as the original show, which I have 2 copies of and have seen several times, as well as many of the other shows and movies. But it's like new, and adults can really get into it, but it's also not like so dark or mature that kids can't still enjoy their heroes that were made for them, you know? I really like the tone of this book. I think this could be just as good, if not better, than the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers run that Boom had. Now that comic's over and it's split into 2 books, but, you know, I thought The Rise of Ultraman was a very, very enjoyable book, and I think that you will all enjoy it as well. So that is it. Thank you all very much for the support. Please remember to rate, comment, subscribe, check out all the cool links in the description below, Facebook, Twitter, etc. And I'll see you all next time.